Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of our Meta Talk Show, and this is episode 3, I think. Gil, welcome here, bro.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man, I've been enjoying these talks, and I hope there's some value in it for you watching and listening. In today's episode, we just want to talk about some targeting, options when it comes to Meta, what you can do from a targeting perspective to really ensure that you're reaching the right people at the right time and so forth. It's really crucial because without your amazing message, an amazing product, without proper targeting, you're not going to see any results because that's just not going to resonate with the audience. So it all starts with targeting the right people. You can have the most amazing offer in the world, but if you're not putting that in front of the right audience, not going to see any success. So just going to end up wasting valuable advertising dollars. So with that said, Gil, let's dive straight into it. So where do we begin from a targeting perspective? Where would you say people are making some mistakes, number one, and number two, where do you think, if you had to guide someone, consult or coach, where would you tell them to start?
Yeah. So I'll tell them to, first of all, just have a very clear understanding of who they're targeting, right? And ensure that it is the right target audience that you're going after. What I've noticed is, and what I see, sometimes a mistake is just bulking interests together. Sometimes they're similar, sometimes they're actually not. And that probably happens because there isn't 100% clarity on who you're actually targeting. So first and foremost, we need to make sure that we know who we're actually targeting in order for us to leverage the capabilities that Facebook has presented with us.
Understanding your buyer personas.
Absolutely. Once you've understood who you are targeting, the second mistake that usually happens is, especially when you're starting out or just even wanting to run an ad to test it out, is taking as many interests as you can. There's Facebook suggestions that they give as other audiences that you can use, and just clicking yes, 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 and just keep on, putting them together without knowing full well how effective each one of those is actually going to be. So yes, what it can do, it help you increase the audience size, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make things a lot more effective. But also the problem with that, even if you did get results, the only challenge with that is you don't know where you're getting those results from. You know that somewhere all these interests are creating sales and revenue, and I'm getting results. I just don't know what is getting me results. It reminds me of that expression, half of the marketing budget is spent effectively, and we just don't know which other half isn't effective enough. And that's because we don't know, because you've lumped everything together and you can't actually specifically say which of the interests are actually working well for you.
So there's limitations to around really growing the account because you in the mercy of Facebook more than you want to be. I think if I have to vomit out some thoughts here, it's like, if you stack some interest together and you actually start seeing success, the only way to scale is just to put more budget in, hoping for the best. So you have very little control over the success, and you're really giving Facebook all the leverage over you in order to determine what's going to work and what's not going to work. So there's little sense of control. And yes, the AI is effective and the algorithm is amazing, and you want to give Facebook as much data as possible so it's going to make the best decisions for you. But at the same time, if you have very little knowledge of what's actually working and why it's working, then you as a business owner are completely at the mercy of Facebook. And when that algorithm doesn't work the way you want it to anymore, you're kind of screwed. Yeah. But if you have an idea of what audiences are actually working, and the ad campaign for some reason stops working, then you can at least go back and rebuild a campaign, or you can test some other stuff that has a good likelihood of working, and giving that a shot again. And I think if you're just flying blind from a perspective of not really knowing why it's working, but you just see it is, then you are very at the mercy of Facebook, and anything can jeopardize that campaign, which is not a really a good place to be for a business owner. You want to have a bit more of a sense of control over your success, and get an understanding of why certain things are working.
Yeah, and it's not to say that we're against stacking your audiences. Last time you asked me, like, in what instances would you actually do that? And I said, one of the instances I would do that is if I have tested those interests and I can confirm that they do work, then I would add them together, because all it's going to do is increase my audience size. And what does Facebook want? Well, it does want bigger audience sizes. So in that instance, it makes sense then to stack it up. But
Yeah.
it's only coming because you've already tested out the audiences and you have a very good understanding, or at least you know how well they perform. And so in those instances, yes, go ahead, stack it and try it out and then give it a test. But beyond that, there is also no interests that work really well. Now, I think there's this constant battle and constant conversation going on in the Facebook advertising world right now. Oh, no interests work. Advantage Plus campaign is the best thing to do. You don't need to be doing interest anymore. No, you just need to do interest, but you must only have one interest at a time. No, you're supposed to stack the interests together. So there's this very polarized. Some are in the camp of no targeting, and some are in the camp of targeting.
Well, maybe just to explain and touch on why no targeting would, in some occasions, work really well.
So no targeting would work and can work in instances because of the fact that it is leveraging the pixel. It will work well, specifically, especially in the beginning stages, if your pixel has data, conversion data, that you are trying to accumulate further more of. So if your pixel has purchase data from 2001, if you left your campaign without any targeting, it's leveraging those insights of past purchases to then go out and get you more purchases. They can work really well because it's leveraging previous data. But if you're starting fresh and your pixel, or maybe just your pixel doesn't have a tremendous amount of data, what will likely happen is it will take longer to get you more frequent results, or require you to probably even spend a lot more because you're not working off of a backbone that was already in place previously. So now you're actually trying to accumulate data before it can take that data and expand on it even further. Advantage Plus is literally no targeting. That is the campaign objective. That's, I guess, relatively new from when you started running ads.
Yeah.
There was no such thing.
It's been 12 years.
There was no such thing as Advantage Plus. But
there was no such thing as traffic ads either.
I know.
It was like page like and post engagements.
So it's like this new kid on the block all of a sudden. I think it's been around for 2 years or something like that. And it came about because Facebook and its confidence in its algorithm and what it's been able to do and get results has created this campaign objective called Advantage Plus. And technically, you don't put any targeting. It uses the hundreds and thousands of data points of Facebook users who have shown interest in products and bought them online. It uses all these different touch points to then show it to people that are likely going to convert or have a good chance of converting. And that's all down to the system.
So from a targeting perspective, what I'm hearing you say is one of the mistakes that people make is stacking a lot of interests together into one campaign.
Mm-hmm.
That's one mistake. What should they be doing? So what is the solution to that, and what would be the best way to test audiences if you're not going to go with Advantage Plus?
Yes.
And you're going to go the more traditional route, which sometimes can work really well. Actually, in most cases, I think work really well, unless, like you said now, you've got a ton of data on the actual store in order to leverage the algorithm to do its thing. How would you go about it?
Very simply put, I would find a set of interests, write them down if you need to, have a set of interests, let's say 5, and I would have 5 separate ad sets, each one having that specific interest, and I would start off at a budget you're comfortable with, at least 50 to 80 Rand, if not more. But
per campaign or per
ad set?
Per ad set.
Yes.
So this is when this is not when you're having a CBO campaign. So
No.
Yeah, we're assuming that everybody knows what the difference between a CBO
campaign
and an ADO campaign is. But it's not called CBO anymore. It's now called Advantage Plus. There's Advantage Plus is confusing because there's Advantage Plus campaigns that you can run.
Yeah.
But there's also the Advantage Budget or Budget Advantage or something. What is it called?
But all that is literally just Facebook prompting you to use its algorithm so that it can do the work for you. It's
Advantage Campaign Plus.
Yeah.
So Advantage Campaign Plus was basically the new CBO.
Yes. If you choose that option of going the Advantage Plus route,
Yeah.
but you can still set up traditionally as a CBO, you can still set it up normally. It's a campaign in the ad sets. You can have your ad sets, but you can still have a CBO. You can still do that.
Okay.
So that's the traditional way. And but in my instance, what I'm referring to is the ABO. So actually having it at the ad set level, all right?
Picking your budgets.
Yes, picking your budgets. What you want to do is you're doing that because you want to evaluate, also with a lot more easier way of evaluating and having more clarity is when they are separated as opposed to lumped into one. What you would do is by having 5 separate ad sets and each one having its own budget, you would run those ads simultaneously. I say minimum 50 to 80, whatever you can afford. If you can afford more, even better. And I'm saying that from a place of, I always say you wanna fail fast and learn quickly. So if I have a specific budget that's all I can spend, then it also means, let's say it's 2,000 Rand. That's all I can spend in a given week. But 2,000 over 4 weeks, that's in a month, that's 8,000. What I suggest doing is, because we want to learn as quickly as possible, instead of spending that 2,000 within just that week, spend 4,000 within that week. Reason I say that is because you will learn quicker, and by learning quicker, you will find the ad sets that are working for you, and then be able to make changes from a budget point of view and start shifting them to whichever ones are working. But you don't have to wait a whole month to discover results that you could possibly get in a week. Because at the end of the day, your goal is to eliminate the losers and remain with the winners and give budget to the winners and progress in that manner. You may find that a specific interest doesn't have a big enough audience size. And a big enough audience size, Facebook will even tell you that broaden your audience. It literally says that. Then I guess in this instance too, you may want to add more audiences and start stacking, purely because you're getting advised by Facebook that it's not enough. You're too specific. Sometimes interests are very specific, and you'll find that it just won't gain any traction because the audience size is too small. Audience sizes will also dictate on whether one is enough or you have to put another one. But what we've found is the bigger the audience size, the better.
Yeah.
And I would say at least 1 million, to be honest with
Really?
you. No, at least 1 million. It's the millies that Facebook seems to be enjoying right now. And I've seen some campaigns where actually 1 million is there, but a pop-up comes up and saying you need to increase it to 3.2 million.
Wow. What's interesting is the reason I think that is because of the iOS update that happened 3 years ago, where half the tracking was kind of lost because of Apple's privacy policies. So the audience size on Meta, that's people you're going to be reaching, but that's not people we can track always, because a huge portion of them, is behind a black wall that we can't see. And I think that's one of the reasons why Meta is pushing us to increase our audience sizes, so that it's got more tracking abilities. And then obviously, the API integrations that happened, and side server tracking and all that stuff. So there's an first party tracking abilities that they've obviously improved as well. But what's interesting is, just to give people context, the reason Meta might be enjoying that so much right now is because it gives the algorithm more breathing room, I suppose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it exactly what to your point is it just wants more data. But in order for it to get more data, it needs big enough audience sizes to be able to circulate through them so that it can effectively enough get you the results that you want to see. But then it means now you need to accommodate, again, your budgets so that it can effectively go out to get those results. Otherwise, if it's sitting on a 40 Rand daily budget, but you've got a 3 million Rand audience, like I said last time, you're barely going to make a dent in that audience size, firstly, and it's likely not going to gain that much traction, and it's going to take a long time, and it's going to fall into learning limited, and your campaign is pretty much stuck.
When it comes to stacking your audiences in the cases where the audience is too small, do you want to stack audiences that are very similar and tightly related, or can you stack, for example, let's look at a sports nutrition company that's selling whey protein. So you've got people who would, the different types of personas that would want to buy whey protein would be someone who is looking to lose weight because it can act as a meal replacement without additional carbs. So it's clean protein that you're getting. But there's also the bodybuilder who's looking to pick up mass. So the question I have is, if you're stacking your interests, how would you stack it? Because in my mind, those are completely two different people.
Yes,
So
correct.
is that fine?
No.
Okay, good.
So the weight loss individual, and actually funny enough, I think even if you had to stack for that specific individual, weight loss versus one who's trying to bulk, there are enough similar audiences for each of them where you won't find yourself having to put the weight loss and the gainer together.
So you'd say stack weight loss with healthy eating, healthy diet, recipes, healthy recipes.
Yeah.
Pick 3 or 4 interests. Make sure it's over 1 million.
Yes.
If you can have tight interests that are tightly related to help you get to over 1 million, great. Then on the flip side of that, can you get, let's say, the bodybuilder persona, which will be weight training, powerlifting,
There's bodybuilding there.
muscle gains.
Should all be
Yeah.
in one.
So, okay.
Yes,
Cool.
makes
sense.
Just how I would do it.
Yeah. Well, that's how I've always done it too. But
Yeah.
you never know when there's want to
No,
confirm
true.
we're on the same page with that, and obviously for those listening.
Yeah, but that's how essentially one can go about doing it. And
And I remember in the past when we spoke about
Yeah.
this, we used to say test 2 or 3 interests in one ad set, because back in the day, obviously Facebook had wasn't hindered by anything like iOS, and the tracking abilities were very on point from an attribution perspective. But now it's more got to do with stack your interests so that you can actually reach the correct audience size, and that's the main goal. You want to stack your interests. It's not so much anything else aside of giving the algorithm more breathing room, and you can't necessarily, in a country like South Africa or any other small countries, it's very difficult to test one interest at a time because there's just not enough people.
Yes.
So you've got all these US marketers who would say test one interest at a time.
Yeah.
But they've had the luxury of having 400 million people in their country where we have 50 million. So, and also out of that 50 million, not everybody can always afford the products or services that you're selling. So it's not just 50 million people. It's a very small percentage who can actually sometimes afford the products that you're selling. So now you have to shave all of that off until you get one interest with only like 20,000 people.
Agree. So it's so competitive for that one little interest where you're just getting 20,000 people. I mean,
'Cause everybody is gunning for that audience. It's
exactly.
Apple gunning for that person. It's
Everybody.
Coca-Cola. It's literally every single company that we can imagine that's running ads is technically competing with you on that, getting that attention of that individual.
At this stage, I am in two minds of like where to run to first. Interest targeting or open targeting. And I say that because, man, the algorithm's getting really good. And so, but then obviously you lose that, but are these interests really as good as I believe they should be or could be? And what's happening is that You can do both, though, actually, by the way. So you can have interest targeting and you can have open targeting or broad targeting. In fact, I actually consider open target. We'll name it open targeting. Just there's nothing there, and I would test that against interest targeting.
But you're gonna need really go about open targeting if you have data on the pixel, or do you suggest you do that from the bat?
No, you can still do it without the data on the pixel, because remember, Facebook's using other signals to find individuals that are likely to convert from ads similar to yours or from products similar to yours.
So they're not just looking at the data from your store from a pixel perspective. They're looking at what are you saying in your ad.
Yes, and who are you targeting?
What other ads are looking similar, and what do their conversions and audiences look like?
100%. Even with interest, I mean, you can go. It's on the back end of Facebook and the page transparency, and there's a section there where if you have to look at any brand's ads, it gives you an indication of the level of interest and demographics that they're targeting. And I don't know if you've seen in the past. Well, you can still do it now. Like if you're wondering, you can toggle on an ad. I think there's like those 3 buttons.
It says, why am I seeing this ad?
Yeah, and it also says something along the lines of because
you're interested in X,
yes,
Y, Z.
Exactly. So it's using data points from individuals, and that's what it's leveraging to then be able to go out and get you results. It's just a lot better when the pixel has data. If it doesn't have it, is that
got more data points.
Yeah. So the learning curve might be a little bit longer because your pixel has no data. So now it really has to go out and find it. But at least when there is data, it can also leverage that to then feed into the system and then, essentially get you results. So at this stage, I would actually suggest that not only would you have interest, but include broad open targeting in there.
Okay. So interest is one ad set that people need to have when they obviously want to get aggressive with their campaign structures. Open targeting, lookalikes. I mean, I still use lookalikes on a pixel perspective. It's weird. Like sometimes I see lookalikes work, sometimes I don't. This is more for our own business because that's really the only company I run ads for.
But are you doing lookalikes based off of a list, or are you doing lookalikes based off of the pixel?
I haven't done it on a list in a long time. Okay. But that's still worth doing.
Because the thing is with the list, remember Facebook has to match up a lot of those contacts and emails and so forth, and it doesn't match up all of them.
Yeah.
And maybe some of them it's iOS, so also there's more being removed than previously. But what I've noticed is I found that the pixel, that data is a lot more powerful when you do the lookalike versus the list that you get, and it still has to match up because I guess it's almost like the pixel is the first party data and it's firing. It's more accurate because also it's firing each and every time it's firing, it's obviously collecting that data and it stores that data. It has that data. But here you're taking external and feeding it into a system.
I'm with you.
And it still needs to, obviously calculate how many people in that system it can actually leverage.
You're giving it more work to do.
Yes. So the pixel lookalikes, in theory, should perform better than your list and that you're putting on into lookalikes.
So just to sorry.
Yeah. So go for it.
No, I just want to conclude in terms of what we've been saying from an ad targeting standpoint. It's crucial to have your interest targeting. It's crucial to have your open targeting, broad targeting, whatever you want to call it. And then your lookalike audiences. And the lookalike could be on specific behaviors, obviously, that you've had on your site. And trying to get to closest to the goal as possible. So the goal is sales. So if you can get a lookalike based on existing customers, existing purchases, and so forth. The interest targeting, just to conclude as well, is like how many different interest targeting campaigns would you want to start with? Because I suppose it's a question of how long is a piece of string, because it depends on your budget. Because if you've got
how quickly do you want to see results?
Yeah. I
Or how
suppose.
quickly do you want to get
Talking
data
about
into?
this is exactly why I'm asking this question is
Yeah.
because I don't think people understand how expensive testing actually is. Because
Perfect.
this is what happens. We're an agency, so what happens is people come to us and go, we want you to improve our advertising. And we go, cool, great. We can look at the data and obviously make some tweaks. But sometimes they've only been running one campaign that has got them to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can't keep scaling that campaign because you can keep feeding it budget, but at some point it's going to have diminishing returns. So what people don't always understand is like you have to start building a foundation from a testing perspective. So we've seen it all the time. Someone comes to us, Advantage Plus shopping campaign, it's getting a 3-4x rise. Great. We want you to improve our marketing. Cool. Well, we can't just depend on this one campaign. Like that's not very wise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not a great business model to be dependent, your whole business being dependent on one campaign. Also, the only lever that we can pull in order to scale is budget. So at some point, we're going to have to get diminishing returns there. So we need to be thankful for that campaign, but then now we need to start testing other stuff like, cool, can we do interest? Can we do lookalike? Can we do broad targeting? What messaging is resonating with what part of the audience, etc. And I think what a lot of small business owners don't understand is like, it is expensive to test, but it pays off down the line. So people want results within 90 days, but what's happening is those tests have zero guarantee of working. But what's happening is you're learning, which means you're taking one step closer to one thing that is going to work. And not everybody's got the budget or the patience to see that through. So you've got a client that comes on board, hey, improve my 4x rise. Cool. Just FYI, you've got one campaign. So we can't scale your business with one campaign, but we are going to give this a little bit more budget. So now you're already taking more money from the client or the business owner from that perspective. But now you have to spend more budget in order to test so that you can actually build the foundation. Because this guy wants to build a hotel, but he's got the foundation of a single bedroom house. And I think this is what people need to understand is like you have built the foundation for a single bedroom house. You have a single bedroom house and you want a hotel. Now you come to someone who can build you a hotel, but they're not going to stack upon your single bedroom house. You have to dig a deeper foundation in order to support the infrastructures of that hotel. And it costs money to build that foundation, to dig. And I don't think people get that. So it is crucial to understand that testing is essential to growing your business. But at the same time, it comes with a cost. But that cost, that ROI, is not money in terms of tests. It's lessons. And those lessons will convert into ROI for the business down the line.
One winning campaign, all is going well, great. But go and test 4 other ad sets that you can establish another winning campaign from one of those 5 ad sets that you've just tested. And that in itself can become a new winning campaign because you're going to start scaling that one. Why? Because the original one can only scale so far. The reality is there is law of diminishing returns, and it will happen at some point. There's an inflection point, and we can dig deep into that. But what you want to do is not have all your eggs in one basket. So
because it's going well until it's not.
Exactly. So you need to make sure that you've got all the collateral in place and leverage in place to be able to look at any of other winning campaigns that you can then pull the levers on so that you can continue to actually scale and be able to see results in the long run. So testing does cost money. To be honest, I'd create 5-6 different ad sets, each of them having 100 Rand a day. You're spending 600 Rand a day to just test. And for some, that's like on one campaign. But now there's, lifetime. Some accounts is like lifetime 600. Now you want to spend 600 Rand a day. But yes, because I want to quickly learn so that I can help you scale. And we know that we can put money behind ads that are actually working.
Yeah. And there's also a percentage risk behind that testing and learning, because not everything that you're going to learn is always going to be extremely valuable in growing the business. And therefore, there's no guarantee that the learning is necessarily going to double your growth tomorrow.
Yeah.
But again, it is running a business. There's a lot of risk behind it, but there's a framework that's proven to work. And that framework is learn as much as possible from an advertising perspective, like Facebook, audiences, offers, messaging, products that you're trying to sell, And all of that data collectively filters through to you coming up with the answers, if that makes sense, like the best possible strategies. And that's how business owners need to look at it, we've started this business on the back of you and me and 2 or 3 clients and 10,000 Rand revenue a month, in 2018 until we grew this into, where we are now at over 20 million a year. The reality is we've been in the small business mindsets. We've been in the process of understanding that we can only afford 2 grand or 3 grand a month on ads back in the day. Now we're spending a fortune on our own businesses. I mean, Sentimental, one of our own companies, within 6 months, we're already spending 100K a month on marketing. So it's understanding like we sacrificing profit short term to learn as much as possible so that we can actually make that profit sustainably long term. And I think that's the biggest flaw I see in business owners. But again, not all of them have the luxury to sustain those losses because it's a fight for survival day to day. And I completely understand that. And I'm digressing a little bit from the topic, but I think as part of testing, we also need to understand that people are budget sensitive. But if you've got a certain amount of money and you desperately have to see a return on that money, you know what? Maybe this is not a game for you to play, to be honest with you. And then boosting your posts at 100 Rand a post and having hand-to-hand combat conversations in order to convert a sale is probably the best strategy for you because there's no guarantee that you are going to get your money back if you're going to be doing these tests. But it's asking yourself, am I willing to fight hand-to-hand combat for every single sale on WhatsApp or wherever it may be, Instagram DMs, so that I can fund my testing and learning phases, so that I can eventually get to a point where I can invest money in ads, so that I don't have to spend all day on WhatsApp and Instagram trying to convince people to buy my products, where the whole process becomes more automated. So it's sacrificing the short-term benefit for the long-term sustainability. And I don't think everybody's got that patience.
Look, the uncomfortable reality is you do need to have a level of an appetite for risk with regards to running, I would say, any of the marketing, even if it is Google ads, it's social ads. And knowing that if you can't afford to spend the luxury of spending to test, I always even call it, sometimes people actually say it as school fees, right? Like, you have to pay school fees in order for your business to go from level A to level B, because it's from the learnings that you can better understand from the data, because you can only really grow what you can measure. But if there isn't an ability to measure because there is no availability of runs to test, there is no risk or appetite for risk. And it's not to say we should be reckless. Even our testing is not reckless. It is methodological. I'm not going to just create ad sets because I can. It's creating ad sets to understand what the data is telling me and then make calculated decisions to put money behind what is going to have the biggest impact for the business.
And a higher probability of actually return.
100%.
Cool, man. I think to conclude, guys, when it comes to testing and optimizing your audiences, it's really understanding that the first thing you want to look at is experimenting with interest targeting. That's usually, the road of least resistance. There's a couple of ways to go about it, like Gilbert suggested today. And at the same time, it's not just having interest targeting, it's making sure you're testing broad targeting as well, making sure you're looking at lookalikes as well. And if you do want to start using lookalikes, consider the pixel as a first option to do so. If you do not have data on your pixel, then use your email list, because it's, in some cases, still works really well. So to conclude, interest targeting, open targeting, lookalike targeting, pixel and email. And those are the core foundation of really audiences on ad sets.
100%.
You can get a lot more granular in terms of what kind of lookalikes. 1%, 3%, 5%, 10%, etc. But those are the foundations, and I think start there if you are busy experimenting with Facebook Meta ads and so forth. And if you're considering who you're going to be reaching, that's the place, or that's where I would start, or anybody else I think is recommended to start. Cool.
100.
Dude, nice to have you again.
Thank you.
From my side, hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. And if you found some value in it, I want to encourage you to like and subscribe and give us a follow. And much love. Have a great rest of your day.
Cheers.